The terrier cast him a baleful look at being so rudely disturbed, then wandered over to jump up on the sofa Arthur had abandoned, and wriggled his way into the centre of the dog pile, still occupying most of it. Iggy rose, all fluid grace and lean muscle from a lifetime spent more outdoors than in. "I'll help you." The two of them left the family room via the opposite door, just as Lancelot's silvered head popped round the other one. "Traitors," Arthur muttered, before offering his uncle a weary smile. "How is she?" He pointed at the cordless phone in Lancelot's hand.
"Poisonous as ever?"
His uncle made no attempt to lower his voice as he thrust the phone towards him, and Arthur winced at the indignant squawk coming down the handset.
"I'm off down the castle for a pint."
The only pub in the small village that sprawled out from the edges of the Ludworth estate wasn't the most imaginatively named establishment, but there was a guaranteed warm welcome for all who entered its front door. Arthur wrapped his hand over the receiver. "You're not coming out with us later?" Lancelot shook his head, the fierce frown on his rugged features melting away, leaving behind lines of strain and grief.
"Can't do it, lad. Saying goodbye to him once was bad enough."
Arthur swallowed. He didn't feel much like doing it himself, but his father had been very clear about his final wishes, so he would honour them together with Tristan and Iggy. "We'll walk down afterwards and say hello to everyone. And make sure Lancelot didn't fall down one of the grassy embankments, which were all that remained of the once imposing moat that had protected the residents of Camland Castle from invaders for centuries on his way home." With a brief nod, his uncle left the room. Having no more excuses to avoid speaking to his mother, Arthur lifted the phone to his ear. "Hello, Mother. How are you?"
"How am I? How can you ask me that? How could he have been so cruel?"
Helena Ludworth Mills Wexford Jones broke down into noisy sobs, which Arthur knew from long experience wouldn't produce enough tears to ruin her perfect makeup. With a sigh, he rested his head back against the dark wood panelling lining the wall behind him and let the performance play out. His eyes strayed instinctively to the smiling portrait over the fireplace, and he wondered, not for the first time, how someone as jolly and lively as his dad had ended up married to someone like Helena. Within less than a minute, the sobs had quietened to a series of breathy gasps, and he was able to make himself heard. "Who's been cruel to you, Mother?" It was a pointless question. Deep down in his gut he knew what the call was about. He'd settled the last bits of his father's will with a solicitor the previous week. Not the best way to spend Christmas Eve, but the timing couldn't be helped, and Arthur had just been glad to see the back of everything after several months trying to tie off the myriad strands of red tape tangled around his dad's sprawling portfolio. Once they'd untangled the mess of dodgy investments, short-term loans and several eye-watering overdrafts, it had become clear to Arthur the estate he'd inherited was flat broke.
"Your father, of course. He waited until the last to drive a dagger into my heart. I bet he went to his grave laughing over it."
"There wasn't much to laugh about at the end," Arthur said, fighting to keep his voice steady as he pictured his father at the last. Uther's once hearty frame had been reduced to little more than skin stretched over bone by the cancer that had ravaged him in a few short months.
"But how am I supposed to survive on the pittance he's left me?"
Helena wailed. Arthur gripped the phone so hard his fingers turned white. God, she had a bloody nerve. "Technically, he didn't owe you a penny." Helena had walked out on the four of them before the triplets' second birthday, declaring her duty done, and had barely looked back. Even after she demanded a divorce to marry her second of 4 husbands, and counting, his dad had continued to support her financially over the next 25 years, and had insisted on a final settlement for her in his will, one which the overstretched estate could ill afford.
"How can you say that? He owed me. Giving